Alrighty, let's head over to our NFL team refresher. We've already looked at the Broncos. We see them going 10-7, 11-6, and we've already done the Saints, seeing them go 6-11. So let's spin the wheel. We do a random NFL team basically every single day, where we see what they did last season, what was good about them, what was bad about them, what did they do this offseason, what did they do in the draft, who did they lose, who did they acquire, and what is their schedule looking like. And then all of that information, we give them win total for their year, and seeing just how we can kind of rank these teams as we get all on the same page for the 2021 season coming up in about 40 some odd days. So let's see who the team of the day is going to be. Let's spin the wheel and find out. Here we go. Wheel is spun. Wheel is spinning. Wheel is slowing down. And the team of today is going to be the Washington Redskins. All righty, folks. So let's start at the quarterback competition, folks. There is an open quarterback competition. It does seem, of everything that we've seen so far, it does really seem that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the starter. I don't even know if we really give Terry McLaurin really any real chance out there to go out, or Taylor Heineke, to go out and win the starting quarterback job. I really don't think he's even going to have a real solid chance to. But let's see what we're getting at with the quarterbacks. We have talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick a little bit over the last 2 weeks, but let's all get a little refresher. The one thing that we just have, real no great confidence in of Ryan Fitzpatrick is that he never really just takes the lead. He hasn't really had that many seasons where he was a full starting quarterback in this league. He started every single game in 2011, went 6-10. He started every single game in 2012 as a starting quarterback, went 6-10. He started every single game as the Jets in 2015 and went 10-6. And we kind of we took a look at this season of this roster, and this was a solid offensive roster, folks. They had Chris Ivory as a running back, 1,000-yard running season, fantastic. They had Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall, who both caught for 1,000-yard seasons, fantastic. They had Kellen Davis at the tight end position, who did not do anything, but this was pre-tight end university, folks. You couldn't expect a tight end to be that solid. But overall, they had some real solid pass catchers out there and a solid running back for Ryan Fitzpatrick. They also had a real solid defense. Kelvin Pryor, Darrell Revis, Antonio Cromartie, Kelvin Pace, Sheldon Richardson, Leonard Williams, Muhammad Wilkinson. I mean, this was all just a real stacked defense, honestly. Todd Bowles, I believe, first year here with the Jets, but still only went 10-6 and didn't make the playoffs. So this is kind of Ryan Fitzpatrick's ceiling. When everything is good, when you have a good defense, this Washington team has a real solid defense. Let's bring up their kind of depth chart real quick and just talk about it, because this defense is going to kind of resemble that 2015 Jets defense a little bit. So let's get up their depth chart, and then we can see what the Washington did defensively last year, just to kind of see, was this an actually good defense, or was it just a mediocre, blah defense? Because, just from what we remember from last season, this Washington defense was real solid, led by Chase Young, really kind of led this Washington team to all the victories, because we had all this uncertainty at quarterback. Dwayne Haskins, Kirk Cousins, Taylor Heineke. So we had, a revolving door of quarterbacks not putting up that many points, not having an elite running game, and it was really just the defense locking it up, locking it down, and forcing low-scoring games that the Washington team was able to win just by having kind of game-managing quarterbacks out there. No elite talent at the quarterback position. All right, so their depth chart is not loading up on the screen. How unfortunate, but we have ways around it. We're not tripping. We can go to our mobile device. So let's get up Washington's depth chart real quick, and then I want to check out that Washington defense very quickly. All right, here we go. Washington depth chart. Let's see what we got defensively. Obviously, we know they got Chase Young, who should be having a breakout year too. They got Jonathan Allen on the line as well. John Bostic, a nice linebacker. Kendall Fuller, a corner. They got William Jackson, the third. Landon Collins, the safety. What do we got with William Jackson? Can we look this up, or is this website not working either? Let's see. Let's go to our. Do we even have player profile up? Yeah, right here. Okay. Player profile to see what these corners are doing against elite tier wide receivers. Let's see if we can bring up William Jackson just to kind of see what he's looking like as a cornerback. Can we buy into him? William Jackson. Here we go. Let's see if he comes up. We going to load here? Doesn't seem like we're going to load. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. But, all right, so while this is all loading, let's go to Washington's defense last season just to see where they were standing just in overall team defense to truly gauge, is this a good Washington defense that is once again going to have to carry the load? So here we go. Let's see where the Washington defense ranked overall last season. And they were the 4th best ranked offense according to Pro Football Reference, folks. Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. All right. Points for, so they gave up 329 points last season, Washington did, and the average was 396, so they shaved off about 70 points. That's absolutely great. Yards allowed, they allowed 4,800 yards total. The average was 5,700, folks. That's almost 1,000 yards less than the average. It's absolutely spectacular. Passing, they only allowed, I mean, this is great, folks. I mean, is this number 1? It's a very, very close number 2 right here. So they were the best passing defense last season. They only gave up 3,068 yards. That's second highest. The highest was the Rams, giving up 3,051 yards. And the average was 3,800 yards. So they shaved off 800 passing yards on average. And it was the number 2 passing defense allowed in yards wise. That's absolutely great, man. Jeez. Oof. All right, let's we can look up this. We can look up their kind of passing completion percentage on defense. So let's look at kind of what they were averaging, just kind of completion percentage for opposing quarterbacks. So let's count this. Here we go. 330 completions on 529 attempts. That's 62%, which is pretty solid right there. That's not bad. Right kind of on that lower benchmark of what we want to see. In the rushing game, they gave up 1,800 yards. They did kind of get beat by the run decently, but the average was 1,900. So they were extraordinary in the passing game, just kind of average-ish in the run game, just 100 yards below the average. But this Washington defense was absolutely very, very fantastic and truly helped them get a lot of wins last season. Let's see if we can bring up this. Let's see if this is going to load, or we're going to have to do everything on the phone. Very, very unfortunate. I don't know. The Wi-Fi, I don't get it. I mean, we go an hour in the show, and now it just wants to crap the bed all of a sudden. Like, do y'all not know we're live? Do y'all not know we got a show to do? You can't be cutting in and out like this. Come on. So Washington by year, let's see if we can bring this up. I just want to see their point totals on what they were doing. Oh, and it comes up. Absolutely fantastic. So it's just ESPN that's just being absolute trash. Classic. All right. Let's see the point totals from the Washington football team scores last season and who they beat, because we know they did only win 7 games, but we do weigh that heavily on just the offense not getting it done. So let's take a look on who this Washington team beat last season and what the point totals were like. So week 1, they go and beat the Philadelphia Eagles 27-17, only giving up 17 points. Real solid there. Then they faced the Cardinals. They lose 15-30. So once again, that offense struggling, only putting up 15 points. And the defense, that Cardinals team real early on in the season was real solid. So the 30-point game, a little unfortunate, but they did kind of pick it up. I mean, we're going to talk about it. They fell into a 4-week stretch right here where the defense was just trying to get everything figured out. And that's, to be, assumed because, that defense, Ron Rivera, first year, head coach there, Chase Young, rookie last year. So the defense was truly finding its footing the first couple of weeks, and then they really got it done in the back end of the season. So they gave up 30 points week 2 against the Cardinals. They gave up 34 points week 3 against the Browns. They gave up 31 points week 4 against the Ravens, and they gave up 30 points week 5 against the Rams. But taking all this with a grain of salt, yes, they lost all those games, but I mean, these are some elite teams. Rams, Ravens, Browns, Cardinals. I mean, that's a tough schedule. So the defense, getting their legs underneath them, trying to figure out while facing the elite of the elite, you still have to give them a little bit of credit for what they were doing. Yes, they were losing all these games, but 10 points they were putting up, 17, 20, 15. I mean, you're not going to win those games. So once again, the offense, and it was early, Dwayne Haskins throwing the ball here, really just unfortunately very, very not good. Then we hit week 6 where they face the Giants, only give up 20 points, and they lose 20-19. Real solid game there. Then they go and face the Cowboys, only give up 3 points. They win 25-3. They win that game, and they have 2 wins right before the bye. Coming out of the bye, they face the Giants again. They gave up 23 points this time, so 3 more points, and unfortunately still lose the game 23-20. Close game. Then they face the Lions. They give up 30 points against the Lions. Now, that is inexcusable. I cannot make an excuse for that. That is just a real bad. That's the worst week of the season, folks. I don't care that you gave up 30 against the Rams, the Ravens, the Browns, the Cardinals. You give up 30 against the Lions, against Matt Patricia's Lions last season? What the hell are you doing? Trash. So they had a little bit of hiccup on week 10. Then they find out to win 4 straight games, folks. Fantastic right here. They go and beat the Bengals 20-9. They go to beat the Cowboys 41-16. They beat the Steelers 23-17, and they beat the 49ers 23-15. But look at this point total, folks. 9, 16, 17, 15. That's great absolute defense, locking it down at the back end of the season. Then they go and face the Seahawks. They lose, but it was a still good game, 20-15. So only giving up 20 points against that Seahawks team. Yes, sir. Then they go and face the Panthers. Once again, they lose this game, unfortunate, 20-13. But once again, only giving up 20 points, you have a real great shot of winning that game if you allow 20 or less points, if you have a competent offense, which we know that they just didn't. And then the last game of the season, they face the Eagles, where they give up 14 points. They win the game for the division, winning 20-14. But once again, I mean, these point totals down the stretch, folks, they only floundered once in the back end of the season after the bye, giving up 30 points against the Lions. Then they never gave up more than 23 points in a game. I mean, that's absolutely magnificent defense. So watch out for this Washington defense. We'll see in a second if they kept everybody. I don't think they lost anybody. We're going to double check that. But the defense is going to be the main takeaway for this Washington team, and they just need Ryan Fitzpatrick to be an above average, or not even above average game manager, just a game managing quarterback. He doesn't need to be the Ryan Tannehill to kind of make the plays and make these big throws. He doesn't need to be the Baker Mayfield. He just needs to be a solid quarterback out there, and that's what we don't know he can do, because he is a gunslinger. He's always been a career backup. He just lets it fly loosey-goosey. When we look at all these interceptions, folks, it's a lot of interceptions, 169 interceptions, multiple, I mean, just look at these interception totals throughout his career. We're only going to really focus on 16-game seasons from this man, because that's pretty much what we're going to get from him. He's going to be the starter, and I really don't see Taylor Heineke challenging him for a spot until Ron Rivera gets fed up with the lack of production that Ryan Fitzpatrick has kind of shown in his career. Yes, I don't want to knock Ryan Fitzpatrick, because there's a difference between backup and starting quarterbacks in this league, folks. Backup quarterbacks, you really are only expected to kind of be kind of a 50-50. We just need you out there just in case our quarterback goes down. So, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a really great backup. He can win you those games. You get, an above kind of 50% chance to win a game if Ryan Fitzpatrick is your backup quarterback. Your quarterback goes down, Ryan Fitzpatrick needs to step up. He can do that. I've got no problem with betting on Ryan Fitzpatrick, starting 1 game here, 2 games here. I've got no problem with that. But for doing a full 16-game schedule, that's just not his play. He's a career backup. He knows he has to sling it. He has nothing to lose. So when he goes and plays as a starting quarterback, he still has all those kind of, rhythms and routines of not successful play as a starter, but successful play as a backup. So that's where we're a little concerned with Ryan Fitzpatrick. But we'll see if he can kind of, silence the doubt from us as we see him in training camp and as we see him in preseason and in the first couple weeks. But, the 10-6 season in 2015 with the Jets, this is what I think the Washington football team is probably going to be their ceiling. Maybe 10-7, maybe 11-6, maybe something like that. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to win the division with the loaded Cowboys team and a loaded right now Giants team. So it's going to be tough, and they need Ryan Fitzpatrick to be great. But in a 16-game season, touchdown and interception ratio, here we go, 24 touchdowns, 23 interceptions. That's absolutely trash, folks. He led the league in interceptions that year, and you cannot be doing that. That's Jameis Winston, folks, 1 for 1, even high numbers 1 for 1, 24 for 23, 35 for 30. It's still too high, and it doesn't result in the wins. As we said, 6-10, and he also only threw for 3,800 yards in a full 16-game season. Y'all know we don't like that. We want to see at least 4,000. Then the following year, 2012, once again went 6-10, and he cut down the interceptions, 24 touchdowns, but still 16 interceptions. We want to see 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and that's basically 1.5. That's not what we're looking for. And once again, he only threw for 3,400 yards and 60% completion percentage. Not great. Then his last full 16-game season in 2015, his best year record-wise. But once again, 3,900 yards, so still not getting to that 4,000-yard pace. 59% completion percentage, real bad, and 31-15 touchdown and interception ratio, which is still good. That's 2-1. That's what we're talking about. And it still, reached a ceiling of 10-6. So we're a little concerned on Ryan Fitzpatrick being a good winnable quarterback for this Washington team, but we'll see what he has. Defense is still solid. Now let's see what we've got here. What do we got to go next at? We got to look at this. Let's bring up what they have done in this offseason, Washington. What have they gotten? What are they looking like? What do they lose? So let's see what we got here for Washington in the offseason, and then we can look at who they drafted. All right, so here we go. Washington in the offseason, they added and re-signed Adam Humphries. Now, that's going to be a good wide receiver target for Ryan Fitzpatrick and just this Washington team in general. Let's bring up Adam Humphries' career stats. Sorry for all that stumbling through that sentence. Jeez. Here we go. Adam Humphries, a nice 5'11" wide receiver, spent his entire career with the Tampa Bay Bucks in Tennessee, and he's never been a 1,000-yard wide receiver. He hit 800 in 2018 with the Tampa Bay Bucks. But once again, look at these catch percentages, folks. This is what we're talking about. Reliable catcher out here. I'm just going to rattle him off here for his entire career, starting at 2015 to 2020 for 6 years. Here we go. First year, 67%, 66%, 73, 72, 78 in 2019, and then 65 in last season. So he's still a reliable catcher out there. And with Adam Humphries, he just needs to be the number 2 because we got Terry McLaurin being the number 1, who's absolutely fantastic. He broke 1,000 yards his rookie year. Let's get Terry McLaurin's stats up really quickly, so we can kind of, assume Terry McLaurin's truly going to get it done here. And with Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing him the ball, this man had Dwayne Haskins, Nick Foles, and Taylor Heineke throwing him the ball. 3 different quarterbacks, and he still was able to get, he's going into his 3rd year. My apologies. I thought last year was rookie year. 900 yards rookie year, 1,100 yards last season. He had 64% catch percentage last season. But once again, you're catching balls from 3 kind of not great quarterbacks, so we can kind of understand these stats. But that 1,100 yards with 3 different quarterbacks, that is elite, folks. That is elite. We give Terry McLaurin a lot of credit. So expect him to really step it up even more, getting a consistent thrower of the football that likes to take the chances, that like to sling it around. Terry McLaurin could be having a real great year, so watch out for him. Alrighty, what else do we have here? All right, so they brought in Adam Humphries. They got Brandon Scherff as their offensive lineman guard. They bring in Curtis Samuel, who is absolutely very, very good as well. Teddy Bridgewater was able to get him a 1,000-yard season. He is on the PUP list as training camp begins, but he should be definitely ready to rock as week 1 is here. So we got Curtis Samuel out here last season. He only had 800. Curtis Samuel only had 851 yards. Who was it? There was 2 wide receivers that had 1,000 yards, and then still, wide receiver 3 here, Curtis Samuel, 800 yards. That's still real good with getting the ball thrown to him by Teddy Bridgewater. So once again, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Teddy Bridgewater, kind of the same a little bit and what they can do. So, once again, this is some solid wide receiver depth here for this Washington team. Real 3 good. You got the elite A1 tier 1 in Terry McLaurin, and then you still got solid tier 2s, Curtis Samuel and Adam Humphries. So that's what Washington's working with. Fantastic. What else do we get here? Ryan Fitzpatrick, like we know, and then William Jackson III. Were we able to bring up his? We want to see what he can do against the big names, the big dogs. So he played in most of the games last season. So let's see what William Jackson did at the cornerback position. Looks like he was on the Bengals last season. So was he shutting down the A1 tier 1 wide receivers? Is this man a good, solid defensive cornerback for this Washington team? Here we go. Against Keenan Allen, 6 of 10 for 57 yards and 1 pass breakup. That's a solid kind of breakup there. Solid kind of lockdown. That's good coverage. Against OBJ, 3 of 4 for 67 yards. That's a little bit of a burn. Against DJ Chark for the Jags, 5 of 6 for 63 yards. Not terrible. Miles Boykin for the Ravens, 1 of 3 for 9 yards. Great. T.Y. Hilton, 1 of 5 for 20 yards, a pick and a breakup. That's absolutely fantastic. against A.J. Brown of the Titans, 4 of 7 for 69 yards and a pick. Not terrible overall, solid work. Against Terry McLaurin, all right, this is the team he's on now. Against Terry McLaurin, 5 of 8 for 87 yards and 2 pass breakups. A little bit of a burn there. He got kind of burned there a little bit. Against Deontay Johnson, 5 of 7 for 88 yards. Little bit of a burn there. Against Darius Slayton, 1 of 5 for 11 yards. Great lockup. Against Devontae Parker, 4 of 10 for 70 yards, but he had 3 pass breakups. That's overall average-ish. You give up 4 for 70. That's more than 10 yards a catch, but you give up less than 50% completion and 3 pass breakups. It's just unfortunate you got burned for a lot of yards. Against Amari Cooper, 1 of 4 for 20 yards and a pass breakup. That's fantastic. Against Brandon Cooks, 1 of 4 for 50 yards. He gave up 1 pass for 50 yards, and 1 pass breakup. So overall, not bad. This is a solid kind of tier 2 corner. We'll take this. So another solid pickup to beef up this Washington defense that was already really gosh dang good in the passing game. Love this. Alrighty. What else did we get here? Who do they lose? They lost Kevin Pierre-Louis, a linebacker. They lose Ronald Darby, a cornerback. So they bring in a quarterback, lose one. And then they also lose Ryan Kerrigan, their long kind of term player out there, an edge rusher. Alrighty, let's see where this Washington offensive line ranked last season. They don't have an elite runner. They have Antonio Gibson. J.D. McKissick could potentially be a really solid kind of running back by committee. Antonio Gibson, 795 yards last season, where J.D. McKissick ran for 365. So we need J.D. McKissick. If you're going to do running back by committee, I need to see both running backs like 700 yards. So we'll see if kind of J.D. McKissick can get his kind of act up a little bit, and we can potentially get a solid running back by committee. Nothing like a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but a solid tier 2-ish running back by committee. But let's see what Pro Football Focus ranks the Washington offensive line going back to last season. So let's see what we get. This was updated January 6, 2021, so, after the Super Bowl and all that. Or before the Super Bowl, but at the end of the regular season. So here we go. Where do they rank this offensive line for Washington? Here we go. Number 1 was Browns, 2 was Packers, 3 was Rams, 4 was Patriots, 5 was Bucks, 6 is the Washington football team. So that's the top 10 offensive line, and let's see what Pro Football Focus is saying. So here we go. Coming in at 29th on the preseason edition of these rankings, wow, Washington presents one of the biggest surprises of the regular season with their play up front. The biggest question mark coming into the year surrounded who would win the left tackle job. Jaron Christian won the job and started there for 6 games before being placed on IR with a knee injury. Still, his replacement, Cornelius Lucas, actually provides some stability at the position with a 78.3 overall grade and an 83.1 grade in pass protection that ranked 11th at the position overall in the regular season. Solid play from Lucas and Wes Schweitzer on the left side, paired with a top 10 grades from each Chase Roulier and Brandon Sharif and Morgan Moses at the other starting spots, resulted in a much improved group from a season ago. Roulier recently got his long-term extension to stay in Washington, and Sharif will be looking for the same this offseason. So let's see what their offensive line is. Do they still have all these good players? Sharif, Roulier, Morgan Moses, Jaron Christian. So let's see what their offensive line is looking like, because if it's still the same, we can still definitely buy this team. Did I not bring up the Washington? Oh, yeah, right. We got back up here. Okay. Here we go. Offensive lineman. We got Charles Leno Jr. We still got Wes Schweitzer. We got Chase Roulier. We got Brandon Sharif. And then we got Sam Cosmi. We still got Cornelius Lucas, but he is listed as out. So all those offensive linemen are still there. They didn't lose a key offensive lineman, and they actually brought in one, as we saw here. And Brandon Sharif, they brought that man back. So fantastic. So Washington football team offensive line, expect that still to be kind of a solid offensive line for the running game and to protect Ryan Fitzpatrick. So we can buy into this team a little bit more. The final thing to the final 2 things to look at is their draft. What did they get in the draft? What did they focus on? Let's quickly see. Alrighty, they go linebacker first pick. First round pick, Jamin Davis, linebacker. Alrighty. Then they go another offensive tackle, Samuel Cosme. So we'll see, once again, just bolstering that offensive line, having that kind of rotation ability if needed, that depth if needed. And we're looking at a real solid line, even if something happens to somebody, gosh forbid, let's knock on wood that this offensive line can stay healthy. Then they go to Benjamin St. Juste, a cornerback, third round. They also get De'Ami Brown, a wide receiver in the third round as well, a 6'1 wide receiver. Let's see if he can kind of work his way up into that rotation. Fourth round, we get John Bates, a tight end. Oh, y'all know we love the tight end, 6'5". We love that. Not invited to tight end university, but we'll see if he gets there next year. Derek Force in the fifth round, a safety. We get a long snapper in the sixth round, and they had 3 seventh-round picks, a linebacker, a defensive end, and another wide receiver who's 6'1", solid. So we'll see if any of those kind of big names make an impact. But the first 3 rounds, bringing a linebacker, an offensive tackle, and a corner, shoring up all those things that need to be shored up. So once again, this Washington team can have a real solid defense with, once again, a real solid offensive line. So very, very great here. Now, the last thing to read here is their overall offseason grade given by Bleacher Report. Let's see what Bleacher Report is saying about this Washington football team. So here we go. Once again, the key additions: Ryan Fitzpatrick, Curtis Samuel, William Jackson, Daryl Roberts, Adam Humphries, and Tyler Larson. Key draft additions, like we said, the linebacker, the offensive tackle, and the wide receiver, De'Ami Brown. And the key departures, Ronald Darby, Kevin Pierre-Louis, and Fabian Moret, another corner. So they filled in all those corner spots through the draft and through free agency. Now let's see what this little 3-paragraph write-up is all about. So here we go. Don't tell anyone, but I think Darby, who's making $10 million a year in Denver, is a better player than Jackson, who's making $13.5 million a year in Washington and is a year older. Interesting. Alrighty, so we just kind of praised Jackson for being solid in covering the key defender or key wide receivers out there. The Washington football team is silly to take Davis over Christian Darrisaw, Rashad Bateman, and even second-round linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Oh, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is a ridiculous purchase at $10 million. We all know his ceiling, and it isn't what the Washington football team should be aiming for based on the talent they have on defense. But you just need Ryan Fitzpatrick to kind of be that game manager, and that's what Fitzpatrick struggles with, being a game manager, but he gives you production offensively. He's able to give you points production offensively, and if the defense is great, having Ryan Fitzpatrick, having short fields and all that, we think he can capitalize. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's still a little bit of a wild card. We're going to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. He could work out for the system. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is the worst quarterback here for Washington. So I don't agree with Bleacher Report's kind of shitting on Ryan Fitzpatrick. We shitted on Ryan Fitzpatrick earlier, but having that great defense and just having Ryan Fitzpatrick to sling this ball around, it could work out big time for Washington. So we'll see. They've got good value for Cosme in the second round, but he's going to need time and not enough when it was done in general to boost the offensive line, the receiving depth, or the secondary. I think the receiving depth is real solid. I think I can believe in Curtis Samuel and, Adam Humphries. I think we can buy into them. I think the offensive line was good last season, and once again, they just bolstered it up a little bit. They got the offense, they got him in the draft, so they don't need him to come out and be A1, Tier 1 right off the rip, but, he could be. So I'm not kind of buying this Bleacher Report's kind of digs on this Washington team overall. Washington didn't get significantly worse, but I'm not sure it got much better, which is a shame because there was a room to do exactly that. So I thought they did get a little bit better. They got some wide receiver depth. I think it's solid depth. Obviously nothing to kind of write home about, but Terry McLaurin can just be your main man. Curtis Samuel's real solid. He was the third wide receiver last year in Carolina and still got great production. Now he's coming into, wide receiver number 2 here. Expect that production to be 1,000 yards, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So Logan Thomas is also another solid tight end. And Ryan Fitzpatrick can make the throws. He can make the throws. He is a gunslinger. So we'll see, folks. If they got an easy schedule, this Washington team can be pretty solid. Good offensive line, real solid defense, and Ryan Fitzpatrick just needs to be the game manager. Hopefully he doesn't try to kind of, do too much and kind of prove everybody, be like, hey, this is what we don't need to see from Ryan Fitzpatrick is like hey, like y'all slept on me for this long. I'm just going to go out and kind of sling it around and just like absolutely bomb this ball every single throw on every single play. We don't need that. Just take what's open, do your job, be the game manager, and Washington could potentially win this division. Potentially. All right, so now the last thing to do here is look at their schedule and count how many wins we can see from this Washington team. Here we go. Starting week 1 with the Chargers. That's a real solid winnable game here. They are at home. And they, facing, a new head coach with the Chargers with Justin Herbert, expect him to be good, but it's week 1. I'm going to give the Washington football team a win week 1 at home. Fantastic. Then they go out and face the Giants week 2, once again at home. And I'm probably going to have them split the season series here with the Giants, but with Saquon Barkley still not, having a timetable, nothing that's been spoken, Saquon Barkley may not be there week 2. I'm going to give Washington, that defense holds it up week 2 against the Giants at home. And it's on Thursday Night Football. Once again, the home team there. This is a potential real solid start here for Washington. Then they go out and have to go on the road against the Bills. That's not winnable. I'm sorry. The defense may be solid, but it's Josh Allen, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick, having history with the Bills, maybe tries to do a little bit too much. So they lose against the Bills. Then they go in Atlanta and face Atlanta. Now that's going to be a real tough game, but that is a winnable game for this Washington team, folks. That defense can lock it up. This Atlanta Falcons, I would like to think it's going to be very, very good, but it hasn't been yet seen with the new head coach Arthur Smith without Julio Jones and with this lackluster running game. So I'm gonna give them a win over Atlanta on the road week 4. Then they are at home against the Saints. I can give them a win against that Saints team, folks. I mean, that offense without Michael Thomas, and you're going to be having this Washington defense. I'm all about it, and at home, 4 wins. Then they're at home against the Chiefs, which is obviously where you want to face them at your home stadium, but I can't give them a win there. Then they have to go at Lambeau and go and face the Packers. Can't give them a win there. Then they go on the road and face Denver. Now, I think this is going to be a real great team. Mile High Stadium, I think, affects Ryan Fitzpatrick a little bit. I don't think I can give him this Denver win. It is a winnable game, and if we're looking for maybe another win out here, we can give him this Denver game. It is a winnable game. I'm just not going to give it to him. Then they're on a bye. Then they have to go and face the Bucs. Can't give them a win there. Then they go at the Panthers, on the road to the Panthers. I can give them a win there all day. That's a winnable game. I do not buy into Sam Darnold at all. So now we got 5 wins. Then they go and face the Seahawks at home on Monday Night Football. This is another winnable game because it's primetime at home. I can give them potentially a win there, but I'm not going to. Then they are on the road against the Raiders. That's going to be a real tough game. They can win that game. I don't think they do. Then they're at home against the Cowboys. They probably split against the Cowboys just because division rival, big history there. So I'll give them a win against the Cowboys. Then they face the Eagles on the road. I'm not going to give them a win there. I'm probably going to have them kind of splitting their series against the Eagles. I'll have them winning their home game. Then they go on the road against Dallas. Once again, splitting the series, gave them a win for their home field. Won't give them a win for their road. Then they're at home against the Eagles. I'll have them another win there. And then they face the Giants the last week of the season. Once again, on the road. Probably don't give them a win there, splitting their seasons here. So we've got 7 wins here already for Washington. If we're looking for an 8th, I'm going to give them the Broncos one. If we're looking for a 9th, we're looking at the Raiders. So I'm going to kind of give them 8 wins total. I'm going to beef up their wins by 1 more there, because of that Broncos game potentially. So this is an 8-9 season, potentially even more. I mean, you can sweep. I mean, it's not out of the realm that they go out and sweep the Eagles or sweep the Giants. So that's a potential another win, and I'm going to give them 9 actually now. We're going to bump it up to 9 wins. So this is a winnable, workable schedule, 100%. The hardest teams I have to face are the Bills, the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Bucs. 4 real tough games that they probably don't win. So, I mean, the ceiling here for the Washington football team is 12 wins. That's their ceiling. Do they reach that? Most likely not. But a winnable, workable schedule, and we're going to have them going 9-8 this season. I think that's real quality for the schedule. 9 solid wins going 9-8. So let's write up this Washington team on our list. 9-7 record. I'm going to put the note in here. Ceiling is 12. Nope. 13-4. That 17 game season, folks. So This is a solid kind of Washington team. I'm gonna put them. I don't know. Do I put them above the Broncos or do I put them below the Broncos? Now, the Broncos, I believe in their quarterback. I don't know. Should I believe in Teddy Bridgewater a little bit more than Ryan Fitzpatrick? I don't know. I think they're real similar, folks. The defense, I think I give a leg up to Washington, and the head coach, I think I give the leg up to Washington. So even though we predicted the Broncos to go 10-7, 11-6, and then say the Washington team is going 9-7, I think overall I'm going to buy into this Washington team just a slightly bit more than this Broncos team overall. So we'll have the Washington football team going 9-7 and above the Broncos and above the Saints on our working team list so far. Alrighty, folks, that is going to do it for us today.